the car.
Alright, so we are back in Arkansas. Starting to work on the engine bay, get everything buttoned up and ready to be pulled out, because I've already picked up the new motor. So in the sea of all that is the junk in my shop, I picked up a 5.3 from a 2005 with a 4L60E attached. It came out of a running and driving truck. So we should be able to just stab this thing in and get it going. So I've got the headers, transmission mount, motor mount, everything is disconnected, so it should be ready to pull up. Headers are going to stay behind and we'll just wrestle with this thing. Try to get it out of here in one piece. Alright, so it's the next day, pretty early in the morning. We were trying to get more knocked out. So, before I called it quits yesterday, I went ahead and pressure washed the complete engine bay. everything cleaned up pretty well. Man, you can't replace a pressure washer. It's a super handy tool. So we got all this cleaned up. There's something over there in the woods making some noise. Huh. Anywho. I can hear it. I just can't see it. Anyways, so while I'm here, before the engine goes in, I'm going to clean up the engine bay. Man, there are just a lot of critters stirring. Yep. Yep. Oh, that's a squirrel. So anyways, we're going to clean up this engine bay, get everything painted. If I don't do it now, I'm going to regret it. Now, I'm trying to fly through this LS swap, but I don't think this is something that I can get away with skipping. So, kind of on the fence. I may pull out. This radiator core support. So, I'll show a clip of me pulling the engine and transmission out of here. It got a little sketchy. I don't like doing it like that, to be honest. I mean, I was in a rush to get it done, but I don't think it's worth it. So, besides, I wouldn't mind painting this up, which I do have to replace this inner fender on this side. So, it's got some holes. But I don't know, also kicking around the idea of separating the engine and transmission and just dropping the... No, I don't want to do that. I'm pulling off this core support. That way I can just stab it as one unit, call it a day. So I'm going to get started. So as you might be able to tell, been a little busy. Been doing quite a bit of this off camera because I'm kind of pressed on time. I only have a few more days left at home. It's been the wife's birthday, so I'm not trying to spend too much time out here, just trying to, you know, get it done. I've got all this pretty much taken apart. I'm not going to dig too into the weeds here because eventually I do have to pop this front clip off in order to replace the rocker panels. But that's going to be on down the road, probably later this fall. So for now, just cleaning everything up. I did find some rust up there on the firewall, so I hit that with a wire wheel. I'm going to put some rust converter on it. And then I've got a little bit of an area over here that needs some more attention, but whenever I get this inner fender out later on, I'll take care of it then. So, gonna get this cleaned up, get it painted, and I'll probably go ahead and paint inside of here. So, once I get this motor in, I'm gonna do everything I can to avoid pulling it out. All cleaned up. I went ahead and used some lacquer thinner after I sanded everything down and kind of scuffed it up and hit it with the wire wheel. So I used that lacquer thinner just to take care of any last bit of grease or grime that's on it. So I'm going to come through. I'm going to use this rust reformer on anywhere that I see any rust. Will it work? Don't know. But it at least makes me feel better. So we'll I'll sit you up somewhere and I'll get to painting. back, the engine bay, I'm sorry, the firewall and the inner portion of the frame are painted, cleaned up, came out pretty good. So super glad that I went ahead and knocked that out. So that way I don't have to kick myself on the back end later on. So big piece of the pie today. I've got this busted 318. See, that corner of the block is broken off. I've got to get it off my engine stand. I'm running out of engine stands. So I need to get this one off, get it moved over in this pile of parts that we're accumulating. Just a boneyard of parts that we're never going to use. Now, some of it I'll use, but we definitely need to have like a garage sale just to get rid of some of this stuff. But need to get that bad boy off, get the 5.3 up on it. I'm going to replace the oil pan gasket and the crank cover. What would you call that? Crank cover? Crankshaft cover? Front engine cover? Anyways, we're going to replace that thing, or at least the gasket up under it, because you can see it's weeping a little bit right there. Yeah, I think that's oil. But the block was pretty dirty when we got it, so I just want to take care of it now rather than have to deal with it later on. So I'll break those apart, get it up on the stand, we'll flip it around, and we'll get that portion done. Looks like got a busted gasket and some RTV around that dipstick, so we'll have to fix that. But yeah, let's just dive into it, get this done. I'm short on time. Yeah, so I guess this is what you get. I guess this is what you get whenever you try to do a rapid engine swap with no planning. And the only thing I planned on was getting the parts together. And that was about it. I've got everything mostly cleaned up, as good as I'm gonna get it. So I like to use lacquer thinner anytime I'm cleaning my matting surfaces, and then I put tape over it. So for you younger guys and gals watching this, anytime you open up a port on your engine, go ahead and put tape over it. So I'm sure you've heard of people dropping bolts into the intake, dropping bolts into the head, starting it up, and then motor's toast. So we've all done it. At least most of us have. It sucks. It's probably one of the worst feelings. If you've ever done it, why don't you put it down in the comments how old you were when you first did it, and let us know how it made you feel. So got my mating surfaces cleaned, got my tape on, and whenever I remove the tape, I'll go back over it with some lacquer thinner just to clean off any adhesive. But we're ready to pick this sucker up and separate that transmission off of it. So while we got it up in the air, we're going to talk about the motor mounts. So I like to use ICT billet. There are some cheaper options on Amazon, but these run about 40 bucks. Now these, you can really run them any way you like. So bolts directly into the factory LS motor mount, and then you'll take your small block Chevy clamshell style and you just bolt it up. You've got multiple attachment points, so In my K10, I've got it running to the far back one. Now, I did that so that I had better drive shaft clearance on the front drive shaft because it's four-wheel drive. So that's why I did that. Now, it did put the back of the block closer to the firewall, but with this being two-wheel drive, I'm not so worried about drive shaft clearance and all that jazz. So the previous owner of this motor, he actually had it in a 79 C10, and he was running in this, I guess it would be the third slot, or the third mounting position. And he had great firewall clearance, used his factory drive shaft and everything, so I think that is exactly what we're going to do on here. He didn't have any clearance issues with its cross member either. But so a quick note on these clamshells. So you'll see it's got that little ridge there. Some of them actually have a hump. Now some will fit in that little recess in the motor mount, but I know on my K10 I actually had to shave. It had more of a pronounced hump that I actually had to shave completely flat with a grinder. But we'll get these cleaned up and painted, and then we'll test fit them. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the motor mount section. So from there it's gonna mount there, and then since this is just your factory small block, clamshell's just gonna go over the motor mount. Then you run your bolt through. That's good to go. So I'm at it. I might as well show you my favorite way to clean mating surfaces. So I start with just a little cheap scraper. I'll scrape it, and then I get a little bit of lacquer thinner, and just a green Scotch pad, and I mean it just melts everything right off. Cleans it up. Don't have to worry about it being oily, and it's good to go. Easy peasy. It's been a long day. So with that being said, motor mounts are on, engine's completely together except for the intake, spark plugs, and just a few, like the belt, a few little odds and ends. So it is it's ready to get stabbed in. Now, here comes the fun part. I've got to remove the exhaust. I'm probably just going to delete the e-brake cable in there. The previous owner, ignore the junk and the trash, made that transmission transmission cross member. So that's I approve of it. Seems solid enough. I'll use it for now. Probably switch it out later on when I actually have time to fabricate something that looks a little bit better. But I've got to get up under there, get that exhaust, get the e-brake out of there, just completely out of the way. And I'm going to undercoat that transmission tunnel. I mean, now's the perfect time. So once this goes in, unless it breaks down, I'm not pulling it back out. So I'll go ahead and paint the inside of the frame after I clean it up. Put some undercoat on it. Get that exhaust out of the way. And then I'll drop the fuel tank, and I'll go over the fittings and stuff that I use for that. And then we'll plumb some fuel lines, put the fuel pump on, and we'll just about be ready to go. This is in no way me talking trash. This is me truly appreciating some ingenuity. So, a little background on me. I didn't grow up with a lot of money, but I grew up with the desire to work on cars and trucks. So, you know, buying an extra piece of exhaust, you know, wasn't always an option. So I just love that they slit this, beat it down to that, what was that, 2.5 inch pipe. Flared it out to a 3-inch pipe. So I mean, that is it's pretty cool. And then he looks like he just sliced a piece of pie out of it, and then placed it over the top, and then welded it back on to get a little bend in it. So I mean, not talking trash. That's some ingenuity. So, but going with some Flowmaster Super 10s. So I guess we'll see how those sound with an LS. But yep, exhaust is out, so moving on to cleaning up and then painting. So the fuel tank is out. Yeah. So the fuel tank is out. I hit the top with compressed air to try to clean that up. So I'm going to crack this sucker open and see what we got. I'm gonna get more in depth in this here in a minute, but basically this little tip right here we have to cut off, because this, well, that's going to be our return. We drill a hole in this so they can flow through. But yeah, so this is going to be our return. This is going to be our fuel outlet. So that's sock is in great shape. Those are hard to find. So set this over here and we'll tinker with that in a minute. Here's the fuel sending unit. I had to cut this portion out, and I went ahead and cleaned it up, deburred it, deburred it. I'm probably gonna clean it up just a little bit more before I slice my finger completely open. So right there, I don't know if you can see it or not, that is the 1/4 inch line going in. So it works as a vent typically. Your truck, it actually connects to the truck's vacuum canister, but for me, I'm going to use that as my return line. Now it does neck down to a 1/4 inch, so I think it's going to be okay. I don't think it's going to raise my fuel pressure or anything like that. I'm going to, on my on my K10, I ran a bulkhead fitting. I've had 2 fail so far, and one actually leaked water into my fuel tank, which it's not good. Water and fuel doesn't mix, so it almost left me stranded. So I'm wanting to try this. If it doesn't work, we'll revamp it. I might have to get a vented fuel cap or something like that, but we're going to try this for now. So like I said before, I got to cut these heads off, and then I can put my fittings on. Okay, so not my straightest cuts ever, but got them cut off, got them deburred. I'm going to make sure I go through and blow everything out really good with compressed air. And then I go typically take some 600, and I go around these tubes really good. Just trying to give it every chance it can possibly get at sealing up and not leaking fuel, because that's no bueno. Been there. It's kind of scary. So I just thought I was ready to go. The way these hardline fittings work, this slides onto here, then it's got this little copper piece. The little copper piece slides onto the metal tube. So you can see that the copper is not fully seated on the tube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these brackets off. I mean, I don't think they're doing much anyways. I'm sure they're there for safety and multiple reasons, but Yep, it's gonna be all right. Gonna hack those suckers off, and then we should be able to get a better bite on it. So I've got the first big in the swap. So it turns out this is a 5/16 line instead of a 1/4 inch. So the hard line connector that I have is not going to work. Also have a few other issues. So this Walbro pump, I do not have the appropriate fitting to go on each end for the male adapter to convert it to AN. So that's going to be a problem. And also don't have a male in for the PTFE line. So I'm going to take a little break, get on the line, see if I can order this and get it here in the next 2 days, or else this thing ain't going to run before I leave. But you know, things like this happen, so we'll just do what we can with the time that we have. So yep, I mean, we've got plenty of other fittings though. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do what we can. All right, so take 2 on the fuel system. So we're gonna have to use a little bit of imagination here. So imagine this is the entire fuel tank. So there's a couple different fuel systems that you can run. You can run an 87 tank and actually have a fuel pump in the tank, which is probably the best option. But the cheapest is to run an external fuel pump. So with this, we're going to use this oil filter as a pre-pump filter. So I actually have one, I just don't feel like digging it out right now. So this is going to be your feed line from your fuel tank. It's the 3/8 hardline adapter. So it's going to run down into your filter. Your filter is going to run into your fuel pump. Fuel pump is going to run into the Corvette style filter that also regulates the PSI down to 60 PSI. So it's going to go in here and out there. Now this is going to be your return, so this is just going to return back to this 5/16 hardline adapter. Now on this style of intake with this fuel system, I have a deadhead system, so I only have to run one line to it. So all I have to do is run my feed line. So this is it. It's a Russell brand adapter. I run it on my C10, haven't had any issue. It just slides on and clicks and it's there. I've never had any leaks out of it. So you got your feed line, ties into this, and that is going to be your entire fuel system. Now there are instances where some of the intakes and fuel systems actually have a return line that comes up. It's I want to say it's 5/16 also. So my C10 is actually a good example of that. It's a return style system. So I did not run a Corvette filter. I just ran a pre-pump filter and then a post-pump filter. I hit my inlet, I hit my return, and I returned my line back to my tank, but I actually used a bulkhead fitting, which I've went through 2 of them so far because one actually leaked water, another one stripped out. So I'm on my 3rd bulkhead fitting. That's why I really want to give this this return setup a solid chance. I think it might actually work a little bit better and prevent the leaks. I'm like 16 hours in. I think it's kicked my butt today. But just a recap on what we've accomplished. Firewall is done. Can't even finish the fuel system. Got the fuel tank out. So this is probably where it's going to stay. Or actually, I'll push it up in the shop, but this is where it's going to stay until I can get some parts in. So no chance in getting it here before I have to go back to Oklahoma. So Best case scenario, I get the engine and transmission locked in, secure, get all my wiring done, and I'm just gonna have to, I could probably backtrack on my fuel system. I could start out the engine and go back, which that's always a possibility, but I will not be able to do the first fire this week. So just gonna wait, but gonna get up under here and show you what I've been working on. So it is all cleaned up and all recoated, at least under the cab. Pretty much anything where the engine and transmission are going to be blocking access, it is all taken care of. Now I just used engine enamel on the frame. At least on the front side, it doesn't look like I'm contending with very much rust, except for these rockers. So that's all right. We got something for that later on. But yeah, I'm beat. I'm gonna call it a night. So I'll see you guys later. So this is the aftermath of last night. So it started raining, so I had to move everything inside in a hurry. But all of that mud and dirt came off my frame. So yep, I'm gonna get this place cleaned up, scoot the truck on in here, and then we'll start dropping that engine in. Man, this shop is just, I've got fluid leaking everywhere. I mean, I've got to get in here and clean it up. It is bad. So the time has come. I'm going to move some stuff out of the way, and then we are going to put that engine and trans into the engine bay. Once we get that done, kind of figure out the transmission mount, and then we're going to make some fuel lines. So just want to make sure I don't have any interference with the transmission cross member. So I'm going to go get a shot of water, probably drink a little bit of a energy drink, and then we're going to try it. What's the worst that could happen? I mean, I've got life insurance. Yeah. Almost touched that big old behemoth. I mean, I think that's one of the good spiders, so I'm not going to kill it, but I need it to depart its location, so I'm get back to work. Go on. Alright, so the engine is officially resting in its forever home. So I'm going to start cleaning some things up. Gonna start getting some of my wiring reinstalled and all that jazz, and then I'm going to dive right into the wiring harness. Alright, so I'm working on my exhaust. You're gonna have to excuse the fan noise. It's getting spicy out here. So these are some DNA motoring, what would you call that, mid-length headers. So seem to be pretty good quality, but something I do with all of my new headers. So I take a sanding block and some 180. I'll just clean up the mounting surface. So we'll get back with you after I get it on. Alright, so headers are in. Here's kind of how they fit. No clearance issues. Didn't have to beat on them. All the bolts lined up just perfect. Plenty of clearance for just about anything. I can't foresee any issues with these. Just a little tip: put some anti-seize on the bolts. If you ever have to take these off, you will thank yourself over and over again, because the last thing you want to do is break off a bolt in the head while it's in the truck or car. It's a major headache. Starting to look like an engine again. Got my coil packs back on, and I went with some JDM Speed spark plug wires. Now they run 45-degree boots, which with headers definitely helps you with peace of mind and clearance. The factory ones come out straight. See how the factory ones come out straight? So these are going to keep your boots off your headers. Again, big props on these headers. Putting in the spark plugs, I had no clearance issues. Everything was easy to get bolted in, and the spark plug boots have I mean, nothing's touching. Everything's got plenty of space. Those wires are thick. So I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious. Starting to look like a truck again, with a piping hot mess of an engine bay. But this is one of the time-consuming parts. So I've got to route all my wires to where they're out of the way, not getting into anything. I'm gonna have to tie into my factory harness and all that jazz. So for now, to get it off the jack stands, I'm going to get the other hood on it. That way I can at least keep it somewhat out of the weather. And yeah, just moving along. Yep. Yep. So I do it myself. I'm gonna call it quits today. I got the repurposed hood on. Now this thing, it's got some dings and dents. So, but so does the rest of the truck. So I've actually got some doors off of a parts truck. They're gonna be black, so this thing's gonna be looking pretty interesting for a while. I might put the grill back in. I'm not sure, I kinda don't like it. So, yep, it might just hang out like that. So, yeah. Later on, I'm gonna come back and button everything up, but this is mostly just to weatherproof it and to, you know, keep the locals from maybe borrowing some headers and stuff like that. But, yep, that is gonna do it for today. Do you have anything to say to the camera?
No.
Okay. Huh? Alright, so we've got our fittings in place. I had to bend this tube out, the return tube. I bent it out a little ways so that we'd have more clearance in between the two. Test fit them, so it's gonna be tight, but we should be able to hook everything up with no issues. So, now we just gotta get it in and make some fuel lines. End of training. I love some Amazon. Parts are cheap. Typically you get pretty decent products. I mean, I've had very few issues out of anything from Amazon or eBay. So with that being said, I got my fuel line off of Amazon. It's PTFE. So the reason I run PTFE, alcohol. Pretty much all the fuel you can get in this area. You can get some without it, but you're gonna pay top dollar for it. So, and also it leaves the option to go to E85 later on. Kicked around the idea about putting a turbo on my K10. Probably won't do it, but if I ever do, at least I don't have to worry about replacing fuel lines. And I mean, really, it's not much more expensive. The fuel fittings aren't that bad to handle. I actually kind of go through how I set these up. Where's my oil? So, it's basically, ooh, that is a nasty example of a cut. But the general gist of it is that I suck at talking. What color did I just use? I just used the black. So, anyways, I'll cut my fuel line to length and hack it off quick with a cable cutter that I got from Harbor Freight. So I always tape it, typically with some duct tape or electrical tape or painter's tape works well also. Pretty much any kind of tape. That's going to keep the edges from fraying like that. That was a bad cut. Kind of see, I gnawed on that one rather than just cutting it. So one of those uh-oh moments, but that's typically what the cut looks like. Now, before I get anything else on there, this is going to come about like this. So, unscrew this portion. So this little silver piece, it's It's going to go between the metal threading and that plastic hose. So from there, this portion is actually going to go inside the hose, and as you tighten this, it compresses this silver piece onto this inside portion. So it pretty much just squeezes that PTF hose, PTFE. I woke up way too early and drove too much, so you just got to deal with me saying things wrong, I guess. But it'll be all right. You can comment down on the bottom your thoughts on me saying everything incorrectly. But anyways, you're always gonna, especially if you lop it off with the cable cutters, you're always gonna have a crease. You can use a what was that? A cutoff wheel on it, but that's it's kind of messy, and I really don't want that stuff in my fuel. So a lot of people do it. I just prefer the cable cutters. A little bit easier. That and my air compressor, it's nice. It just doesn't like running cutoff wheels for long. Anyways, got this all handy dandy crescent wrench. And it's kind of got a flared handle, so I'll shove it down at the bottom. Straightens that tube out. Now, I don't even know where you can buy these. I actually commandeered that from my stepdad as soon as I turned 16. So, it's always the tools you get from your parents that are the best. So, splash it down onto the hose. I always like to put a little bit of oil on it. Just helps it slide down a little bit better. And just try to get the hose all the way to the little lip that's inside of there. I'm going to put a little bit of oil in that. I'm just going to push it in there. And it just tightens up. Now, I'm not a super bougie person. I'm more function over appearance with most things. So, frankly, I really don't care if these get scratched up when I'm installing them, but some people do. So they make little kits that will go into your vise. You can actually clamp this down. The only reason I'm doing it, the only reason I'm even using my vise is I'm tired today, and I'm just not feeling super patient. So wrestling with 2 wrenches, I just don't want to do it today. So get the right wrench. Also, they make 8-inch fitting wrenches that are, I think they're made out of aluminum, and they don't mar up the finish on the fittings. I'm sure you can already guess. I just use wrenches. I mean, I have them already. I get it decently tight, not anything crazy. there you have it. Alright, I've got the fuel lines mocked up. I don't like to take the tank in and out multiple times to get my my hose sizes, and you cannot access the fuel sender once the tank is actually in the truck. So I've got an approximate line with no end on it that I'll install underneath the truck once I actually get the actual measurement. And then I've got a long length for my return line. That's actually the rest of the kit that I ordered. So again, I'll cut that one underneath the truck also. Alright, get her over there. I know we're tight on. See, this is why I need a bigger shop. Alright, so a couple things. I had to shave. I think the mustache is looking pretty good. So this trip down to Arkansas wasn't really intended to be for working on the truck. Had to take care of some stuff with the old National Guard. So yeah, even though I was hopeful to get a first fire done, damn it. Oh. But it doesn't always work out like that. So today, best case scenario is we finish getting the fuel lines ran and get the intake put on it. So I think that's a little short on time, as always. It also have some, got a pack for my trip back. Don't lose the keys. Man, and the four-wheeler's in the way. I'm out of shop space. So anyways, gonna get this stuff moved out of the way and try my best to at least get the fuel system routed and get that intake installed. So, projected timeline on this. At the end of the month, I'm going to come back for a few days, and my goal being to get this beautiful machine running, and I'm either going to drive it or trailer it back to Oklahoma. Then from there we're going to start taking care of some of the smaller odds and ends, but it's going to be a tough one. I haven't even touched the wiring harness. It's laid across the wall. Okay. And these things are heavy. Why are they so heavy? I don't think I've ever seen any of this heavy. By the way, we got a new camera, so you don't have to worry about the video being like. So apparently these GoPro 10s, so apparently they have some form of stabilization. So my shoddy camera abilities either way, it's going to be a whole lot better than it was before. So we're having to come up in the engine bay. We are going to go ahead and drop in the intake with some new gaskets. That way we can get an accurate measurement on our last fuel line. So I'm going to post you up and try to do this in a timely manner, because I'm running out of time. Alright, here's the final look of the fuel system. So I've got it coming down from my fuel sending unit there, going down. That's where my feed line is hitting the pre-filter. I've got my fuel pump. Oh, it's gonna be a rough one to get to. Got my Corvette style filter there, and that single line is running up to my fuel rail on the side of the engine. Got the intake installed, and we also have the final piece of the fuel line hooked up. So I just ran a 45. I hope you can see that. Just ran a 45 off the back. It goes down to my Corvette fuel pressure regulator. So that's gonna be it for today. Or actually, that's gonna be it for this episode. So next time I'm in town, my big focus is going to be finishing up hooking up the drive shaft. I'm probably gonna have to sort something out with the transmission cross member, because I'll be running a 3-inch exhaust on this truck. That cross member likely is not going to give me the space to do that. So finish up the wiring. I'm going to run the exhaust, the drive shaft. Hopefully get this rat's nest sorted out. Probably ratchet strap a battery in. Got to install the radiator, the hoses, and then my hot air intake. And then we should be hopefully ready to run the sucker. So with that being said, if you've liked what you've seen today, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. We have a lot of work to do on this truck. We're going to keep trying to build it up as we go along. So at the end of this is essentially going to be a poor man's restoration. And then we're gonna have some fun with it. So, and the mosquitoes out here just about to carry me off. So yeah, in the meantime, it's gonna be about 2 weeks before I get back down here to work on this project some more. So the next video is actually going to be on Jared's project that he has going on. So you might have seen it in the background of some of the pictures and videos. So we'll introduce that, kind of give you the rundown on its condition and possibly some of the future plans. So yeah, thank you guys, and appreciate everything.